Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Casey. If you check out my last few videos, you'll see that I just got back from Peru and I did Lares Trek. That was a couple-day hike. It took me a lot of time to figure out what I would need to pack and what I would need on the trail. So I thought I would go ahead and just go over some of the things that I packed for my Peru trip so that if you're ready to go to Peru or if you're just going to do a couple-day hike, I can give you some pointers. So let's get into it. I went to Peru at the end of March, beginning of April. So that just kind of gives you a time frame. It's supposed to be the end of rainy season and the beginning of dry season, which dry season is a little bit colder, but I ended up getting right in the middle and getting rain and cold. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is something that I use all of the time, and that is packing cubes. This brand specifically is water resistant on the outside. You can kind of hear that, but the seams and the zippers are not waterproof. So I actually had an incident where my duffel bag got left behind for a little bit and it did get wet. Everything inside of it didn't get soaked, but it did get a little damp. What I'm so happy that I used instead were these completely waterproof sacks, and I had them in multiple sizes like this. So you fill it up and then you just roll it down like it's a dry sack essentially, and you just clip it like that, and then everything inside stayed completely dry. One of the other girls, where her bag also got left behind, all of her stuff was completely soaked. She didn't have any packing cubes or any dry sacks. So these were super helpful. I kept my clothes in some. I kept some of my electronics in them. Speaking of electronics, I did bring a couple power packs with me. I did bring my favorite one that I travel with all the time, and that I've linked in a different video. I brought this power bank specifically, one, because it had a solar panel on the front of it, which honestly I didn't get to use because it wasn't really sunny the entire time. But the real reason why I wanted to bring this one is because it has a built-in flashlight, which is actually pretty bright, and I did use it to walk around camp. One little tip is to keep all of your electronics and everything battery powered in your sleeping bag with you when you sleep at night, because otherwise if it gets too cold, the battery will die. That's what happened with my little flashlight that I brought with me, because I didn't put it in my sleeping bag. I just kind of had it beside me. So when I woke up in the morning, it was totally dead. But luckily this had been in my sleeping bag with me, so I had no problems with using this the rest of the trip. Speaking of lights, I did bring a headlamp with me as well, and I did use this throughout camp, especially in my tent. That was when it was the most helpful. If you're going to be hiking for a couple of days, especially in high altitude, you have got to bring with you some electrolyte powders to add to your water. So I brought like Gatorade Zero, and then this is a brand called Salud that I absolutely love and I use at home all the time. But these were lifesavers. I highly recommend bringing some electrolyte powders with you. I did have access to a shower, but it was outdoors and it was very cold, so none of us used it. I'm so glad that I brought these body wipes with me, which you've seen this in another video that I use for long flights. So I use this every night just to freshen up, and I'm so glad I did because it really made me feel a lot better. I went with G Adventures, and luckily that meant that I didn't have to pack everything with me because they set up my tent for me every night, and then they also allowed me to rent a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, and the trekking poles. So I didn't have to worry about that with camp, but I did end up bringing a pillow with me that was like you just blow up. Since I was renting the sleeping bag, I did bring a sleeping bag liner. This really came in handy, and I ended up using it in another hotel as well that just had really thin sheets, and I didn't feel comfortable sleeping in it without an extra layer of protection. Something that I always travel with too is a microfiber towel, and this is so easy and compact to use. It does have a really large, almost beach towel in it, and it has a smaller like hand towel in it. This is the hand towel, and this one I used on the trail the entire time, and then this was the larger one. You can see it's pretty big. I take this on every single trip really, because it just comes in handy and it's kind of compact and not hard to pack. Another thing that I always travel with, and I have used so many different times, is a first aid kit. It does have a pair of scissors that gets past TSA, no problem. And I did end up using the scissors, but it was nice to have everything in here just in case, just to kind of go along with the medical things that I brought. I did bring a lot of things for my feet specifically. I was really worried about trekking 3 days in a row and having an injury and then just being miserable. So I did use these Dr. Frederick's Original Better Blister bandages. Say that 3 times fast. I did use these because they are pretty cushioned and they're the perfect size. They have, I think, 3 or 4 different sizes in here that you can use. That was helpful. Something new that I used for this trip is KT tape, and I've read a lot of good things about it. I see a lot of athletes have it. I found these small tabs that came in this little container, which was really convenient, and they come in a strip, but they are pre-cut. So they're just coming in these little tabs, and I have a spot on my foot that always bothers me, and I read that you can tape that and that will help with pain. Anytime I'm wearing new shoes or boots or going on long walks, that part of my foot really hurts. And I watched YouTube and figured out how to tape it properly with these little strips. It just took 2 strips. And oh my God, this is a complete game changer for me. I'm gonna do this all the time. I use these the entire time. I mean, like, the strip is almost gone. So I use this a lot. I also brought with me some KT tape that you can cut whatever size strip that you want. And I think this one is an easy tear. I ended up not having to use this, thankfully, but it was nice to have it just in case like I twisted my knee or hurt my ankle. So this would give me a little bit of support and help with pain if I did have an injury. Like I mentioned earlier, it did rain the entire trek that I was on Lares Trek. It was okay because luckily I had brought enough stuff with me that I was prepared for rain. Even in Cusco, it did rain, so I am glad that I brought a couple of these things with me. I did bring this little mini umbrella. It's super easy and compact to take, and I did use this while I was in town. I brought this rain jacket with me. I was really happy I brought this. I did wear it the majority of the time, and it almost goes down to my knee, which is really nice. It also folds up pretty compact, so I could keep it in my bag with me at all times. Our tour guide bought us all ponchos, which these are available all over the place in Peru. So it's extremely thin. It's just a piece of plastic. This is the poncho that I used the entire trek, and it was really helpful. I am glad I brought it. Instead of just plain plastic, these are EVA plastic, which is a lot thicker. It almost feels like a shower curtain. This one is nice, one, because it is thicker. Also, it has these snaps down the sides so that you can close it around your body, which that one just kind of flaps in the wind. This one also has a hood, and it has some strings so that you can pull it tight. This almost made it unscathed, but I did use it so much, so I ended up getting a hole just here in the hood, but I didn't get a hole anywhere else. So I'm pretty impressed with these. Speaking of elements, I also was very prepared for sun because we are at a higher elevation, so I was afraid about getting sunburnt, and obviously you see I get sunburnt really easily. So the first thing that I brought was this wide-brimmed hat. It did help with keeping the rain off of my face as well, so I am glad I brought it. It didn't help me from getting my head wet, but it did keep it out of my face, and if it had been sunny, this would have protected me pretty well. On the topic of sun, I also travel with this all the time. You'll probably see it in a lot of my videos. These are sun shirts. They're like 50 SPF protection, and it has the hood. I wear the hood all the time. These are lightweight, they're breathable, they're not hot. So this didn't really provide me with any warmth that I would have liked, but it's perfect, especially in the hot season. This is really helpful to wear, and it is lightweight, so it goes in the bag easily. This shirt that I'm wearing came in a pack of like 5, I think, and they're super lightweight. They also help with sun protection, and they have them in the long sleeve as well. These are crop tops, but they're a little bit longer. As you can see, they're not super short. So I really like these. I highly recommend these because they are nice to layer. It did get pretty cold in Peru, especially at night. I did bring a couple different base layers with me, and I'm so glad I did. This one, I only took the shirt, but this I wore under some of my layers, and it's lightweight, but it is very warm and stretchy. But at night, what I wore to sleep in was a different kind of base layer. These are Cuddle Duds, which is a brand I love. This came as a set as well with a shirt and the pants. And I wore this every single night in the sleeping bag, so this kept me pretty warm. Speaking of warmth, I had always planned to buy an alpaca sweater at the co-op that we stopped at. I did have to wear it a night over top of my base layer because I was really cold that night. At the co-op, I also bought a hat. I tried to sleep in this, but it's not very tight, so it didn't really help much. But I could have just wore a regular beanie that was a little bit more snug, and it would have stayed on me at night. At the women's co-op, I also bought these alpaca leg warmers. This is the part that your foot goes in. I did not use these as leg warmers, but they ended up being very handy because the gloves that I brought were not waterproof, and my gloves got soaked at one point through the trek, and I was freezing. I honestly was not sure if I was gonna be getting frostbite or not, which I think was a little dramatic, but at the time I was that cold. So I took my wet gloves off and ended up putting these on and used it to get off the mountain because I was so cold. And this helped me so much. I was so happy that I had these with me when I did. But otherwise they were kind of useless. This was my only jacket that I brought. It's almost like an athletic material as well, and I don't think it's waterproof. It was decently warm, especially with the rain jacket over top of it. I did wear this the entire time, almost every single day. My favorite pair of shoes that I wore the entire trip were my trail runners that are from Brooks. So I wear Brooks at work. They're really comfortable. They do well with standing and with walking long distances. These have the Gore-Tex protection on them, so they are water resistant. And my feet did not get wet in these. I've wore them multiple times since then, in like wet grass and stuff like that. But I wore these on 2 days of the trek, on the first day and the last day, which are the 2 shorter ones. And these were really comfortable. I wore them for a 4-mile walk to break them in a few days before I left, and that seemed to be enough for these. I highly recommend these. They are a little bit more on the expensive side, but they are well worth it, and they've lasted really well. I ended up buying a pair of Columbia hiking boots. You can see these were worn a lot because they are filthy and I need to wash them, but they actually were pretty comfortable. My only issue was that I did not wear these very long beforehand to break them in, and my feet ended up doing fine. I did wear this on the longest day of the trek because that's when the terrain was the most difficult. My feet never got wet. I was one of the few people in our group that I did not get wet. They have an out dry spray on them to keep them waterproof. The last pair of shoes that I brought were mostly just for camp. They're a pair of sandals. These also are well loved and well worn. They're my old sandals, but they are Skechers, and they're just little strappy sandals. So when your feet are sore when you're at camp, instead of having to put your boots back on to walk around, I was able to just slide these over some socks, and these were really comfortable. Let's talk socks for a second. So I did wear these socks when I wore my high top boots. These are really comfortable. They're kind of padded, but they're not super thick. Like, they're not uncomfortably thick, but they do have support in them, and they are made for hiking. So I do like these socks. I do suggest these. And when I wore my low tops, I wore this brand. This has a support band in it and are a little bit thicker, so they have some blister protection and some blister protection in the back. So I bought these in the black and the white. Love these, also highly recommend. And then of course, when you're at camp, it's always smart to bring a pair of thick, warm socks. And I ended up bringing, I don't even know where these are from, but these were thick and warm. And I think they're made out of some wool, so these kept me warm at night. I think what I did the most research on was a hiking backpack. I really struggled with picking one because there's so many different options. And I ended up going with Osprey, which is a little bit more expensive, but I know I've only heard good things about Osprey. This is the Tempest 26 liter. It's really nice. It has these waist belts that have little pockets and a suspension system, which I will say this bag was extremely comfortable to carry. No complaints there. It has the chest strap as well. My complaint with these pockets are that they are too small to put your phone in. So it was perfect size for me to put my action camera in. That was helpful, but I wish I could put my action camera on one side and then my phone on the other side. And I bought this waterproof bag cover. This came in clutch multiple times. I was super happy with this purchase. It just kind of elastic band around it. Super easy to put on and off, and it kept my bag dry, so worth it. This bag has a couple different loops and things on it, so I ended up getting some small carabiners that I could just attach different things. And I ended up attaching a hand sanitizer with this. Some people may not like this, but I found it to work really well. So I knew that I was gonna have to pee on the trail multiple times, and usually I would just use like a wipe and keep it in my pocket. Then you have an issue of having a dirty, wet wipe in your pocket or in your bag for the entire day, and that part I don't like. So I was reading online what a lot of women do, and I guess some people rip up old t-shirts and just use a strip of it and call it their pee rag for the day, which I found gross as well. But I found a product, and this is just a cheap dupe of the original. So this has a couple of different snaps, and you can just snap it. I just snapped it to the carabiner and kept it on the back of my bag. It has an antimicrobial coating on it to keep it from smelling during the day, and it's easy to rinse. So I would just use it during the day. You can snap it shut if you'd like, or you can leave it open and let it air dry, which I did a couple times. But at the end of the day, you can just rinse it off, and the next day it's clean. It's cute, it works. I like it better than a pee rag. I usually travel with this Downy fabric spray. I did take it out of the original bottle and put it in a smaller bottle that was just easier for me to pack. But I use this a ton. As you can see, it is down a decent amount. So I do recommend traveling with this. This does help when you pack light. Just kind of helps refresh your clothes, and especially on my jacket, even the alpaca sweater, this really came in handy. So guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you found some things that will be helpful for you on your trip, or some items that you'd like to purchase. I will be putting links below in the description box of all the items that I talked about. If you have any questions about anything, please ask below. I will answer that as soon as I can. But as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.